develop a new intelligence community assessment that details how Moscow tried to meddle in the election in favor of Donald Trump.
And they did it. And now the Obama people are working overtime to prevent it from getting out. Daily Caller is reporting this, saying that Team Obama is quietly trying to stop Americans from hearing about this Russiagate revelation. And you're going to have to get all the media to be honest, which is going to be a tough thing to do. They're more than willing to cover up their team support here. Joe Biden. Here, Obama's former aides reportedly are hoping to cancel these unfolding revelations. That's according to an NBC report. DNI released a bunch of documents. Now Obama's allies hope the public never learns about it. This is according to NBC, which is saying that they are battling this. And Daily Caller is saying the battle now play this even to make sure that thoughts don't start to creep into more mainstream audiences, said one former Obama administration official. The same Obama aide told NBC that they're counting on mainstream Republicans to listen to editorial boards like the Washington Post and those in Congress who say this is ridiculous. So we're fighting in the public arena. Now we're going to create the energy. We're actually doing something about it. They're going to be fighting back to see nothing as was just a legitimate investigation, just warlords. It's going to be relevant about this. And so now Sonnery next excuse us from any repercussions. Now you can see they're complying. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence, after Tulsi Gabbard came out, we paused here just to absorb the moment. Oh my gosh. You gotta remember the Jack Smith revelation, the indictments against the president being announced, Merrick Garland coming out and saying that they're going to appoint a special counsel right after Trump announced it. Like, those are like pivotal moments in the news, in the history, in the daily affairs. And when Tulsi came out and dropped that, read the whole thing, spent a lot of time on that day, making sure we dealt with it with the appropriate gravity that it deserved. Washington Post and the New York Times didn't report on it. It's front page. Evidence of signal chat details about Hegseth. House panel is going to subpoena Epstein anti-Trump story. Some lunatics with signs out there on the streets. 180,000 migrants could have trackers. They're very upset about that. They want to not have trackers. They bring in their friends. New York Times doesn't care either. Voting in Idaho remains elusive. What happened with Cooper? No refugee for trans clinics. Front page, New York Times. Trans clinics. That's all they care about. Trump intends to unleash an AI to spur a boom trade deal on Japan. They bury the entire story. So they were in it. We're unguided conspirators that we're seeing now. Tulsi is now bringing the truth to us.
And this is where things changed. Fast forward to when this report was released in January of 2017. DNI Clapper, Obama's DNI, led the production of it. CIA Director John Brennan tasked 5 people in his organization and worked with the FBI to produce this new assessment that was a 180-degree flip-flop from the several assessments that led up to the election. The Obama Direct Intelligence Assessment said that Russia did aspire to help elect Donald Trump in that 2016.
And he lied.
Yesterday, results of an investigation that the House Intelligence Committee staff majority spent well over a year interviewing several of the intelligence professionals that were involved in the production of this manufactured intelligence document. And it really goes line by line detailing how this assessment that was created in January of 2017 at the direction of President Obama literally manufactured intelligence, knowingly put down falsehoods in order to reach this assessment conclusion that I stated that Russia aspired to help Donald Trump win the election when it was blatantly false. They knew it was false, yet sold it to the American people as though it were true.
And the question is, can anything be done about it? Can Obama be charged with a crime and pay repercussions for orchestrating this whole thing? As we said here, it's going to be a tall order because he'll have some probable justification for what he did, some plausible explanation. He's ordering an intelligence report. In other words, he'll be able to envelop his actions inside the force field of presidential immunity that the Supreme Court created. Now, if there's other indicia that would go to motives that would show specifically that Obama, somebody sent back to him, I don't care, put it in anything, something like that. But that's an evidentiary statement, right, to show what was actually going on. And if he was creating this maliciously, other than him just saying, well, she's a stupid person. No, because he got away with drone striking Americans, killing American citizens without prosecution. since a lot of people care about that. Got to be stuff, right? That's an official act, official decision. So does treason qualify as an official act? No, of course not. The question is, how do you prove that? It's an evidentiary problem. It's going to be difficult to get to unless Tulsi's got some more goods. Trump is recognizing that Obama probably going to have immunity on this. He's saying Obama is
How do you think that the Supreme Court ruling that benefited you on presidential immunity would apply to former President Barack Obama? And what year do you think he was doing to not only help the immunity, but it just help the people around him as well? But it probably helped him. He's done criminal acts, no criminal acts, but he has immunity.
So we'll see what happens. Now, Trump had to fight his way to the Supreme Court to get his immunity. Obama did the same. So we'll keep our eye on this one and see what else drops. Hopefully, Tulsi's got more coming soon. We'll go through it right here.
And then moving up in comics. Now, Oscar's cousin, that's it's fact and a loose of hope. It's not the red flag. It's the blue flag. We have another job. He's cool with us, isn't he? Yeah, he's been paid. What do you say? They didn't. Oh, yeah, I don't know. Okay. Yeah, you got it. Hey, stop! We got him! We got him! I said, stop! Who did that? Oscar, you sicko. I got a hockey question for you. I noticed when the players fight, one of the guys is always pulling the jersey over the head of the other guy before he starts pounding. Yeah. Is that hard? No, that's easy. Yeah. Hey, brother, can I borrow you for a second? Basically, all you do is just stretch the arms, you know what I'm saying? Sure. Yeah. Okay. How much? I'll give you $100. You know what I mean? Okay. You got it, Scotty. I'm broke. Okay. Great job. Excellent. Yeah. That's fun. I know my God. Mini belt style play is about two things: angles and obstacles. If you can read the angles, we can avoid the obstacles. Let's punt so we can figure those angles out. Yes. Shut up. Yeah, you're right. One more day before we face these giants. This is how I used to toughen up. Oh my God! Yeah, so let's see you stop. Oh, you want rest seats? A package, eh?
Something, huh? One of your rides? Let me know. It's on the way. All right, I'll get back to work.
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal High Cottage House. No, it's not exposing the old London democracy of the left. You know, the truth is, the Democrats have been attempting to flip the script on the Epstein story for a very long time. Yelling about this Epstein-Trump connection, attempting to misrepresent it for years, trying to pin the whole thing on Donald Trump.
Hi, what do you need?
Your partisan butts, guys.
Sure thing. Limo en route.
Actors, the long names of Donald Trump at the most opportune of times. It's clear the purpose is to create a headline and hope that nobody looks even. And you know what? For 9 years, it didn't really go anywhere. But recently, of course, they picked up a little bit of steam here. You know, I'll be the first to admit the Trump administration hasn't exactly handled the Epstein files so well. But in the end, it might have been a great mistake. People might be turning as the wording that Elaine Maxwell is apparently flipping and now working with Donald Trump's DOJ. Yeah, let me tell you what the Democrats have started to advance Pelosi fights all of a sudden to avoid the Epstein. Like legs, stolen distractions, and this is a distraction. And you can probably guess why as well. If Elaine Maxwell starts naming names, well, it's likely this whole thing backfires. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on as Jeffrey Epstein's #1 accomplice found cooperating with DOJ. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on here. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so take a look at this.
Immature Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche's meeting with convicted trafficker Elaine Maxwell has ended. And this as critics are calling for more transparency in the Jeffrey Epstein investigation.
Maxwell was escorted back to the prison from the courthouse in Tallahassee. Her attorney said they had a, quote, productive meeting with Blanche, but details of their talks still remain under wraps right now.
David, what else did Maxwell's attorney say?
Well, he said a lot. We wish we could be in and hear what was said in the actual meeting. This meeting was a lot shorter than it was yesterday, but this was a 2-day event. The highlight, though, it appears that her team wants a pardon.
We're going to take one day at a time. I know that's very cliche, but it's true because things are happening so quickly. We haven't spoken to the president or anybody about a pardon just yet. And you know, listen, the president this morning said he had the power to do so. Legally exercise that power in the right and just way.
So apparently, Ghislaine Maxwell sat for a 6-hour session with Todd Blanche, a top Trump DOJ official, and we're now learning that more sessions are supposedly happening now. And as we all know, she's locked up for 20 years of child trafficking charges, and that's a little bit of a grim outlook, so obviously she wants a deal. And so apparently she went to the Trump administration and said that she is ready to, quote, name names. The people at the top. We're hearing reports of over 100 names supposedly now being listed, and supposedly the Trump administration is now trying to get us transparency. They're apparently ready to release the entire list of names, as well as the grand jury testimony and possibly other documents. And so this whole thing's got me thinking, you know, was it a trap? Was this the plan all along? To get Democrats to take the bait, try to politicize this Epstein thing, only for it to then backfire spectacularly in their face? The Democrats tried to use this thing to take down Donald Trump. Now I just have a feeling they're shaking in their boots, because the freaking floodgates are about to open. Knows exactly who is truly involved, and the House Oversight Committee is now dragging her in for deposition. And while there's been all kinds of reporting of Donald Trump's connection, media buzz, headline focus, at the end of the day, all the information that's been released so far is nothing new. We already knew about the connection. We already know that Donald Trump traveled on Epstein's plane multiple times, but we also know that he never actually went to the island. But you know who did go to the island on over 20 occasions? Bill freaking Clinton.
I was very fortunate that President Clinton introduced me to a lot of business leaders in London because he knew I was coming to deal with it. Do you know I never asked for anything was Jeffrey Epstein? I didn't want to be around this guy because I felt he put the president at risk on that trip to South Africa because there were these young girls. And we were like,
Like, who's this guy?
So, I will say this. So, young girls on those flights. Young girls on those flights. Yeah.
Yeah, I just have a feeling this whole thing's gonna freaking boomerang, like every other failed Democrat narrative, and I think Donald Trump knows it as well. You know, for somebody who's supposedly on the precipice of being exposed, he doesn't exactly seem so nervous.
Well, I don't want to talk about that. What I do want to say is that Todd is a great attorney. But you want to be speaking about Larry Summers. You want to be speaking about some of his friends that are ex-Sun guys. They're all over the place. You want to be speaking about Bill Clinton, who went to the island 28 times. I never went to the island. Well, I don't know about the meeting. I know it's taking place, and he's a fantastic man. He's a great attorney, and people should really focus on how well the country's doing, or they should focus on the fact that Barack Hussein Obama led a coup, or they should focus on the fact that Larry Summers from Harvard, that Bill Clinton, who you know very well, and lots of other friends, really close friends of Jeffrey Summers, should be spoken about. Because, you know, Jeffrey Epstein should be spoken about. And they should speak about that, because they don't talk about them. They talk about me. I have nothing to do with the guy.
It seems like Donald Trump knows that this whole thing is going to backfire spectacularly. And you know what? I really wouldn't be surprised considering everything that we know. I know a lot of people are jumping onto this story in 2025, or even recently during the pandemic, but this whole Epstein saga has been going on for a very long time. I've been talking about this since like 2015, and even I was late to the party. I've obsessively researched this topic and even done deep dives to Donald Trump's connection, and every single time it either leads to a dead end or the conclusion that Donald Trump wasn't Epstein's associate, but rather in the end his adversary. That's what the facts tell us so far. The Dems are obviously engaging in conspiracy theories, but if you actually look at the history, the story between Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump, it tells a pretty clear story. It's pretty clear what the dynamic was. Donald Trump did not like Epstein. He kicked him out of his club. And by the way, this reporting is coming from Michael Wolff, who's one of the biggest Trump haters in the world of journalism. But basically, he's reporting that Trump was one of the first people to report Epstein to the police back in 2004.
Epstein believes that Donald Trump went to the Palm Beach police and said, Jeffrey Epstein has young girls at his house, thereby beginning the legal process which would ultimately bring Jeffrey Epstein down.
The latest reports suggest that Jeffrey Epstein, quote, blamed Donald Trump for his downfall. We know that Trump threw Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago in 2005 for hitting on an underage girl. Then in 2006, he helped victims come forward and went after Epstein. We also know that the FBI knew about all this, but during the Obama years, 8 years of Obama, they did nothing. They buried the story. Then during Donald Trump's first term, just 3 weeks in, he signed an executive order numbered 13773, which went after transnational sex trafficking rings. And it wasn't just Epstein, it was a global war. And in 2009, the Department of Justice under Donald Trump's leadership arrested Epstein. And in 2020, Trump's DOJ arrested Ghislaine Maxwell. So Donald Trump did in 3 years what the left refused to do in nearly 30. That's what I understand. But the Democrats, for some reason, think that just because they have a photo of Donald Trump and Jeffrey
he fucked up.
in the 90s,
Donald Trump just played him.
that it's somehow undeniable.
Donald Trump just played
I
down.
think that that's the case. Again, I am maintaining, at least it's my speculation, it's my theory, that this whole thing's going to backfire like you can't even believe. But of course, we'll have to see. Only time will tell. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Hello everyone, I'm Nicole Sapphire, along with Kevin Cork, Katie Pavlich, and Tom Shalhoub, and welcome to the Big Weekend Show. The big story tonight. Obama-era officials could finally be held
took my
accountable for
call
their
off, yo.
role in the Russian hoax. President Trump's Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, has now released declassified documents exposing how all these members in the Obama administration suppressed key intel to create a false narrative about President Trump and Russia. Gabbard is turning over all the documents to the DOJ for criminal referral.
We are referring all of our documents to the Department of Justice for the purpose of accountability and action. No one, no matter who they are, no matter how high up they are, or how powerful they may be, No matter who the intelligence officials or professionals were who were part of this treasonous conspiracy, there must be accountability.
And according to documents, a December 2016 presidential daily briefing concluded that Russia did not impact the election, but that was shelved by the Obama administration. Instead, Obama gathered his National Security Council the next day to discuss creating a new intel assessment. That was published on January 2017, and it claimed that, quote, further intelligence has come to light showing Putin's interference in the election to help Trump. This intel was later confirmed to be the fraudulent Steele dossier. All this is happening as former CIA Director John Brennan and former FBI Director James Comey are under criminal investigations. And we've got complete coverage on this. White House Principal Deputy Press Secretary Harrison Fields is coming up in tonight's Big Close-Up. But first, we go to Lucas Tomlinson live from the White House with the latest. Hey, Lucas.
Good evening, John. Press 48 hours has been pouring in. Here's Pat Fallon a few hours ago on Fox.
There's certain things that I can share with you, certain things I can't, because I used to know the intelligence committee, but there are grave concerns that I have. And the more that I look into it, the more that we find, it's alarming. This is potentially Watergate-esque. It's that big of a deal.
Here's some more of the documents that you were mentioning off the top. Gabbard points to this material which intelligence officials state Russia is probably not trying nor have the capability to influence the election by using cyber means. Gabbard appeared on Fox News Sunday, Fox Defender this morning.
President Obama and his team, he directed a manufactured piece of intelligence that detailed not if, but how Russia tried to influence the outcome of the United States election that President Trump won in November of 2016. This document was then used as the foundation for everything that came next.
Now, Gabbard says what happened next was a years-long coup against President Trump, but Democrats are questioning Gabbard's accusation. They point to a report released by the Republican-led Senate Intelligence Committee in 2020. Senator Mark Warner says the findings, quote, reaffirm that the Russian government directed extensive activity against U.S. election infrastructure ahead of the 2016 election, and that it used social media to conduct an information warfare campaign in order to benefit Donald Trump. As you see there, Doc, the fallout as expected coming down along party lines. The next step in this would be congressional hearings. Doc?
Lucas Tomlinson, thank you so much. All right, well, this is a big story, guys. Katie, I want to go to you first on this. I'm sure you have a lot to say on it. A couple of questions for me is, what was the big reveal in this report? And the even bigger question for me is, when it came to the Russia hoax narrative, was this really due to national security concerns, or was this intentionally manipulated from the top down for political gain? Before you answer, I just want to pull up the full-screen quote from the declassified DNI report from December 8, 2016, the same day the briefing that said Russia did not impact the election was killed. It said, quote, that same day, deep state officials in the IC began leaking false developments to the Washington Post, stating that Russia used cyber means to influence the outcomes of the election.
But this is just a total confirmation that this was completely organized, that it came from the top down. You had this meeting on December 9th, 2016 with the former president of the United States, Barack Obama, essentially giving orders to try and undermine a democratic election in which Donald Trump won. You hear Democrats talk all the time about how important democracy is. And this is where democracies die. This is where publics go to their grave, is when you have unelected officials giving orders by a president, the most powerful person in the world, to undermine the will of the American people.
What?
When it comes
We
to
want it done.
to do next, DNI Gabbard says that they've referred all these documents to the Department of Justice. I hope that it's not for naught, because this is not just about the Trump administration in the first term. This is about the country, and it is too important for accountability not to come, because when there's no accountability, things happen over and over again. Let's not forget what this led to. It led to the special counsel investigation by Robert Mueller, which dragged the first Trump term through the mud for years, bogging down not just the administration, but the country.
$40 million.
$40 million. It led to the first impeachment of Donald Trump as a result of this bogus narrative. And when you look at the details of what they put out, it's just the government officials in D.C., Democrats in the intelligence community, working with the media as well, to sow this false narrative to bring down an election. And that is something that Democrats always say is so important not to do, and yet here they were the entire time. One final point. We knew a lot of this was happening. Devin Nunes was a former House Intelligence Committee chair back in the day saying this was happening. Kash Patel, when he was the chief investigator on that committee, he's now the FBI director, revealed a lot of this. But this is now just concrete evidence that this was not just deep staters deciding they're going to make some moves. This was directed by the former president, and I think he should answer some questions about what his role was.
Well, and Kevin, what do you actually think is going to come from this? What is the end point? Are we looking at prosecutions? Are we just looking to try and change the narrative over that? Because in my opinion, at this point, after the 2016, the 2017 report, the 2019 Mueller report, the 2020 bipartisan Senate report, everyone kind of has their settled opinions at this point, and I don't think that anyone's going to change their mind. Like, what are they looking for?
I think you nailed it in that perspective. There's an old saying, there's a reason the windshield is much larger than the rearview mirror. Where is your attention focused? However, I think Katie really nails it when she says, if you don't fix this problem now, it will happen again. And there's something else here. There used to be this sentiment in Washington that basically said, you know what, you don't want to get this idea of prosecuting high-level officials. It creates instability of our institution. But the fact is, I remember a mugshot.
No.
The president.
I'm number two. I'm number two. I'm number two. I'm number two.
Frankly, there should be some prosecutions associated with this, and I'll tell you exactly what you said. If you do nothing, if you just talk and have hearings and sort of flap your wings, that does nothing to stop them from doing it again. That's why somebody has to walk the park.
You know, Sean, one thing I find interesting is critics are accusing Jamie Gavin of saying this is politically motivated. They're just going after people that criticize President Trump. You know, but it's really interesting how Democrats can reconcile the fact that they continue to call election interference from Russia. They tried to say that Trump really with that report after report, but there's no evidence of that. Yet what we did have evidence was, that was the 2016 election. The 2020 election, there was proof that Democrats and social medias actively suppressed conservative voices, also interfering with the 2020 election.
Absolutely. It started, the thing to remember, there's two parts to this. One was the election, and then when Trump won the election, they went into phase two. I'm holding the report that I printed out. I was hosting Red Eye at the time. I still have this from 2017, the Assessing Russian Activities and Intentions in Recent U.S. Elections. This is where they said Russia interfered in the election with a preference for Trump. And I used to hold this up. Back in the old Red Eye days, I would say, who wrote this? And nobody had an answer for me. Top men at the FBI, the CIA, the National Intelligence Assessment here, they all put their names on it. Then, when they failed, when Trump got elected, because this was to prevent him from being elected, when she uses words like coup, when she uses words, I'm talking about Tulsi Gabbard, when she uses words like treasonous, that's the kind of language you have to use when you approach this. I think the only way anybody goes down here is if you turn something. You got to go at it like it's the mob. It was an attempted coup, and when the coup failed, they decided to try to bring him down through impeachment, and if impeachment failed, it was basically putting sugar in the gas tank of this administration. And that's what the Russia hoax was. Okay, how do you bring down top people? Because they're just going to keep lying. They've all been lying. James Comey's been lying. McCabe, they all lie. And Obama's going to lie. If you film a girl, he's going to lie. So you've got to get someone, I don't know if it's like someone on the Peter Strzok level, someone has to turn and say, they said this at the meeting. Otherwise, no one's going to go down.
Well, I agree with you. I think it's the people who were in that meeting the following day where the narrative completely shifted. It was those people in the room, and I agree. I'm not sure we're going to get anybody to talk.
Yeah.
See? Who knows?
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe.